I will just want to give a brief welcome and just thank all of our participants and participating. And we hope that you all have or receive some knowledge and things or tools that will help you to succeed if you're ever in a tough situation. And so I appreciate you all joining us today.
If you'd asked me 2 months ago if I'd ever heard the name of a little town in Louisiana called Jena, I would have drawn a blank. Jena? Never heard of it. But on December 4th, 2006, after a white Jena high school student was taken to the hospital with a black eye and a concussion, the district attorney charged 6 black students with attempted murder and conspiracy and promised to seek the maximum sentence, 100 years in prison. You didn't know it at the time, but D.A. Reed Walters had set into motion a series of events that would change this little town forever. The Jena Six are Michael Bell, Brian Purvis, Jesse Ray Beard, Carwin Jones, Theo Shaw, and Robert Bailey.
This case is not and never has been about race.
It's not black against white, it's crime. District Attorney Reed Walters, proceed to tell those kids that I can end your lives with the scope of the kids.
That's one of the best lessons that my son could learn, to know what it is to be black now. The day he set foot out of jail, I'm gonna tell him. I'm gonna tell him again. You know what it is to be black now. Here it is.
Also not far from the White House recently, there was a noose that was found hanging from a tree in college campus. He had worked very hard to bring Black and Hispanic into your party, but the fallout from the immigration debate, and even some Republicans have been kind of refusal go to debate at Univision as well as Burgess State. Called this question may not be state of race relations deteriorating in this country and specifically in their party.
My advice to whoever will be our nominee is to reach out to the African American community as well as other communities. But I believe that we've got a very strong record when it comes to empowerment, when it comes to education, home ownership, small business formation. The events in Louisiana are saddening. Now, I understand the emotions. The Justice Department and FBI are monitoring the situation. All of us in America want there to be some fairness and justice. We've got a good record to run on, and I advise our people to run on.
Defining moment in race relations.
All righty, so I want to introduce Jonathan Martin. Jonathan Martin will be moderating this panel for us.
Thank you all so much for being here this afternoon. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, LaMarcus, for inviting me here for this panel, Breaking Barriers, a conversation about racial equality. You guys just watched that video. Most of you, I hope, could hear it and see it. And we want to go and jump right into our panel today because it's such an important discussion that we're having today, considering everything that's happening across our country almost daily, it seems. So I want to introduce our panelists, and then I'll let them kind of say a little bit about themselves as well, because I think they perhaps could introduce themselves better than I could. But we have on our discussion today, Attorney Robin Burgess. We want to welcome you. So thank you so much for being here. And you just heard the story about the Jena Six. A lot of you probably, well, perhaps may not remember the story if you weren't, maybe I know a lot of you are younger, you may not remember the story, but that hopefully will give you a little bit of background on their story. And we're fortunate and blessed today to have two members of the so-called Jena 6. We have Theo Shaw, who's here, who's also now an attorney, and we also have Coach Bailey, Robert Bailey, joining us. So I want to thank all of you for being here on the panel today. So I want to start, I'll start with you, Theo, just kind of giving us a little bit of introduction. We know obviously a little bit about your story, but perhaps some of the young folks on here, young people on here don't know probably enough about what you and your friends went through almost, I guess, about 15 years ago. So can you just give us a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, so again, my name is Theo. I'm from Jena, Louisiana. My family grew up there, still are there. And just a little bit about myself as far as that experience until today. You know, basically, Jena is a very small community, very segregated community. If you've ever visited Jena, you'll learn very quickly that it's a very segregated town. There's a so-called white side of the town, and there's a so-called black side of town, and that's obvious when you go there. And so when I was in high school, 17 years old, 2006, there was a lot of racial tensions going on in the community. You know, from my viewpoint, I think a lot of the adults, a lot of the administration didn't do enough to really deal with some of the issues that were going on throughout the community. And basically, you know, things went down at the school. I was wrongfully arrested, spent 7 months in the jail there in Jena, pre-trial, wasn't convicted of anything, just waiting to get out of jail, which raises another issue about our criminal justice system, you know, bail issues. And from there, you know, spending 7, 8 months in jail really taught me a lot about, as one of the gentlemen was saying on the video that was showed earlier, just about what it means to be Black in America. And that's experience, you know, taught me a lot about our criminal justice system, which inspired me to want to become a part of the system in a way to help prevent some of the injustices that we see daily.
All right, thanks so much. And we'll start, we'll go next to you. Robert, you want to give us a little bit of background on yourself? You two know each other very well.
Yeah, that's like my brother. That's like my brother right there, man. Robert Bailey, I go by Bailey. Some of my close friends, they call me Rob, but I go by Bailey. Born in Jena, Louisiana. Just like Theo said, it's a section, it's a city to where you can definitely tell the tension is there. But, you know, we as Black people, we stick to what we do, and we help one another. And that's one big reason that it kind of, a lot of people are known and pretty much they know about the Jena 6. My mom, she raised 3 kids on her own. I had a chance to graduate from high school from Columbus, Georgia. After the incident that took place in Jena, Louisiana, I had to relocate there. Just like Theo Shaw, had a chance to go through some hard times when I was incarcerated. Was incarcerated for 4 months, but during the incarceration, we had 2 things that we could have done. We could have put our head in the tank. We could have looked back and just listened to everything, all what the inmates were telling us. We could have listened to all the negative things that was brought to us while we was going through that time, but we didn't. So we took the opportunity of them putting us in a jail cell, leaving us with a bag of books, and they left us with one wrong book, and that was a law book. And that would strengthen us to be able to write our own bond reductions, write our own hearings, to put us in position to later on be free. So now that I went through all that, had a chance to go to Grambling State University where I played college football, had a great college career. I wasn't the best receiver, but I can tell you that. You couldn't tell me that I wasn't the best. I had a chance to win 2 championships there. My head coach was Coach Doug Williams, one of the first Black guy to ever, the first Black quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl. So just to get a chance to experience at HBCU, especially coming from what I went through and where I'm from. Now, understand, Jena is not too far from Grambling State, so I'm familiar with HBCUs. I'm familiar with the tradition. My grandma, she instilled it in us that we know about her automata and just understand what it means to be a part of the HBCU. The next thing was me getting my master's there. So by me able to get my degree, get my master's, and move on and be able to move up in this coaching rank in the last 7 years as fast as I've done, it's all about me knowing the right people, of course, and also just putting in the time and the effort. So that's a little background about myself. I know I kind of got, out track a little bit, but sometimes I get excited a little bit. But, one thing I can say, Theo and I, it wasn't easy for us, but the mentality kind of kept us afloat. Once we moved to Georgia, we stayed together. Once I was released, we stayed on the phone with each other. When he went to college, he called me. When I went to college, I stayed on the phone with him. Real tears to each other. We didn't watch each other experience some real life-changing situations. And to see where we are now, we spoke this to existence. It's nothing that we able to experience without really believing and seeing it. So just a quick background about me. I get excited because I am a football coach. So, sometimes I get that answer about myself when I get to talking about helping young men and what they need to do to stay afloat and get that degree.
Yeah, and we're glad you are excited about it. We appreciate you being here to share your story. Attorney Burgess, we appreciate you being here as well to talk to us, because I know you're going to talk about some of the legal aspects of what our young men and young women can do if they're ever in a situation like Theo and Robert found themselves in years ago. Can you give us a little bit of background on sort of your work and your specialty?
Just very briefly, first let me just say to Robert and Theo, it is definitely an honor to share this panel with you. Grateful to Amber and Jonathan. Thank you for moderating. In terms of my specialty, I started, my career has been very varied. I started as a prosecutor. I was also a defense attorney. I've been an administrative law judge, insurance defense. Now I'm on my own. With a passion for helping young people and criminal justice reform. It's something that I've done throughout my career, whether in a professional capacity or again through my passion. So I'm just here excited and excited to contribute in any way I can. Again, thank you for having me.
All right, thanks so much. Theo, I want to go back to you. Back when you guys were making national headlines back in 2005, 2006, it seemed like America wasn't necessarily ready to have the conversation that it's having now. Now people are really listening. People are really speaking. People are speaking up. We're seeing these changes. I'm curious how you felt in the last 3 or 4 months, seeing these difficult conversations being had, these changes being made, but perhaps 10, 15 years ago, we weren't ready to do that. How has that felt for you to see that change?
Well, I appreciate the question. I'm not sure I would entirely agree that people weren't ready to have the conversation. I think what we're dealing with is a very specific conversation about the criminal justice system. I think when you look at Jena 6, it's about a troubling part of the system. It's about prosecutors being overzealous in using their discretion to overly charge. Whereas today, I think we're still having a conversation about the criminal justice system and some of the issues, but it's about another part of the system that fails to hold people who are involved in the system accountable for the actions that they take too often in ending the lives of young Black and brown people across this country. And looking at, what's going on today, sometimes go on social media myself, and if you get on Twitter, you can put a certain phrase in to see, what's been the latest sort of talks on social media about a specific topic. And even thinking about, all that we're seeing today, I sometimes go on social media on Twitter and type in Jena 6 just to see how people are sort of making the connection between from then to now. And if you go on Twitter and, put in Jena 6, or something like that, people start these conversations about, what radicalized you to have the perspective that you have today. And you'll see, lots of people talk about how Jena 6 radicalized them, that basically gave them a perspective on a way to see the things that are happening today. And I see what happened to us and what we experienced as a continuation of that conversation that needs to be had each and every day until we, you know, have a system that treats people, you know, fairly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think my point I was making is more so the conversation about race in general. But I think you're right about when it comes to the criminal justice system for sure. But in general, I think people are more open just now to talk about race than I think they were 10, 12 years ago. Yeah, and so I'm curious to hear your response to that as well, Robert. You guys were right in the middle of this. You've lived this. And now you're seeing some of the same issues play out again, but people are now more open to sort of confronting this. That I'm sure has to be interesting to watch from your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing about it is social media. You know, social media helps out a lot. One thing I told Theo the other day, if we would have had social media back then, just imagine how quick the word would have spread. So some people don't realize how vital, how imperative it is right now for all the Americans and all the black community, all the black Americans to come together as one and really see everything as one. And you say that, it's always going to be hard because everybody got their own ways of viewing things. And the reason why I'm saying that, because the way the people came and marched for us, they don't understand the impact that they left on the town and the city. That really helped us. That shook up the justice system. That shook up Reed Walters. So Reed Walters, he's the type of guy, the DA, the district attorney is who I'm alluding to. He's the type of guy that walks around with his chest up. But now when you realize, hey, I got all these people that supporting this group of people, and they come 60,000+, and they bring in all the household names as well, from entertainers to Al Sharpton to all the civil rights activists and everything like that, which is key. So everything that's going on right now, it helps. And some people say, man, I'm not gonna go march, I'm not gonna protest. Like I told Theo, as soon as I saw the video with George Floyd, I was in tears. I drove straight to Houston. I was on my way to see my mom. I drove straight to Houston. I had on a button-up T-shirt. I just got off from work. I don't care what the situation is. I'm going to support. I'm going to march. I did nothing else. It was just, it hit me in a different fashion. And I was almost in tears driving the whole way down there, because for us to witness someone die, for us to witness someone to be misused in the system, and for us to witness this consistently over and over and over and over, it tells me that's a problem. Now, the other good thing about it is that for us to witness everyone coming together, and now that you see the Black Lives Matter movement, not saying that it wasn't there, but now you see more of a change. You see certain things, as in the NBA, they're able to recognize Black Lives Matter because now social media is alive. Now you got certain people, whatever they do, no matter what their job title is, but they're able to step in, and people and kids and whoever individual might listen to that person, they able to see what's going on. They're able to see the videos. They're able to witness this with their own two eyes. Now it's more of a demand for us to get justice. So that's my way of looking at it right now, just to kind of say, hey, these were the situation that took place at that time, and my perspective on how did they help and how it is not helping. But I think if we can continue to do what you guys are doing now, continue to educate everyone on the system, the justice system, and exactly what does it take to survive as a Black man or a Black woman in America. Because some of us don't even know to be honest, we don't know the law. You know, half of us don't even know, and we put ourselves in situations that we can really be prevented from being in from the jump. So, you know, to answer your question, I just really think that, you know, their experience at that time, from seeing it from just newspaper ads and, you know, some Google sites, you know, but now social media put that thing at a different rapid speed. So I can feel my brother going through pain without really being there. I can see someone that looked like my uncle, my dad being killed in front of me. So now it's more important. It feels more personal now than it did back when the Jena 6 was just now going through the trying times. So that's just my perspective on it. And
that's a good. Yeah. Social media plays a huge role. I mean, just from the public pressure when something happens, like just the way things spread like wildfires. That wildfire. That's interesting. We talked about the criminal justice system from back in 2006 to now. I'm curious Attorney Burgess, like, have we seen any substantive changes, or are we still sort of dealing with some of the same issues? I know Louisiana, I lived there for several years, so I know that some of their laws are draconian, and some of their things that I couldn't believe some of the issues in Louisiana when it came to the way they handle juries and things like that. But overall, have we seen a lot of changes when we talk about just sort of an overall perspective?
I think overall we have seen there are changes, but it has not changed enough. And I saw, in terms of just a moment ago, when Robert spoke, he mentioned in terms of change. And I would say there's momentum. Like, even with this most recent incident with George Floyd, it seems like we can just look at many incidents along the way and there's momentum. But in terms of sustained change, I don't think we have that. Robert also mentioned, what does it take to survive as a Black man or woman in America? That's a good question, because we know it's not how much money you have. We know it's not education. That is a very good question. But in terms of the laws, they are changing, but they are not where they should be. Example, in the state of Texas, Texas is still only one of 5 states where we're still chasing the raise the age, meaning at 17 being tried as an adult as opposed to 18, and that discretion being there.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, we talk about change, and I think there's this conversation that a lot of people have with themselves. You know, we see stuff on social media, we see the marches and rallies, and there's this, I think, conversation that a lot of people have with themselves. Do I get out there and get involved? Do I just do something in my community? What advice would you all give? Any of you can chime in to some of these young people who are listening to us here on the Zoom today. They want to be active, but they perhaps don't know what all they could or should do.
One of you gentlemen want to start?
Or just, you know, just how you can, within your own space, get involved.
So go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's all. That was my question, yeah.
Okay, I'll speak up. So regarding things that young people can do, I think that they mentioned it, social media. Now, in terms of, that's something, I have children, they have their phone all of the time. And if the young, and I believe she was a teen, if she had not only had her phone, but took out her phone and started recording, we wouldn't know about George Floyd. It's likely that it would have been chronicled as a death, and we would have moved on, and we would have never heard of George Floyd. In terms of the movement that's now taking place across the nation, that I am prayerful that will initiate some type of sustained change in terms of law. You know, that is, that we would never even know about that. So I think they mentioned it before in terms of social media, and also taking action. And also, I guess I'll get into that later, even with the recording and the social media and things like that. Legally, we'll get into some of the things that the students should do while they are engaged in that. But I would say that is probably the biggest thing in terms of shining light on that issue.
Coach Bailey, you are, as you said, a coach, a football coach. You're around young men a lot. What do you tell them? Obviously, you don't want them to have to go through what you went through, or what George Floyd went through, or what any of these young Black men went through. So do you give them any kind of advice? Do you give them any sort of means to be prepared for any situation that they might encounter like that?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing about it, my philosophy is, you know, with those guys, is I kind of instill it with my philosophy, what I need from my group when it comes to performance, academics, and just lifestyle as a champion. So that's part of my teaching. Guys, one thing you got to know, you can't make up nothing. You can't change the color of your skin. So you can walk around here invisible. You can walk around like you invincible. Like, hey, I'm making plays. The scouts are calling about me. I got a draft grade. You know, you got a draft grade. The scouts are looking for you. But at the end of the day, are you doing what you're supposed to do off the football field? Are you doing what you're supposed to do to help the next person be successful? All right, the next thing, how you gonna act when you come across an individual that you can tell that's racist? How you gonna be able to handle that situation when that officer pull you over and you know you're in the right? Just like Theo and I stated earlier, he stated to this before. Just because you comply with the officer doesn't mean that he can't shoot you in your back. You can do everything right. And that's something I can witness, and I know something that That's something that I really know from experience. You can do everything right and he can still shoot you in your back. You can do everything right, he can still spray you down with mace. You can do everything right and he gonna find a reason to make sure that he make your life miserable. And I'm saying he as in an officer, he as in the system, or she as in the system. And the reason why I'm pointing at the system, because the system shows the consistency of police brutality over and over and over. I can't blame that person no more. I can't blame that cop no more. I can't blame that DA no more. I have to look past those. Why? Because they work for a system, systematic structure. By me knowing that, I tell my guys, if you already know that, you're dealing with a town that's racist. If you're right or you're wrong, put yourself in a safe situation. How do you do that, coach? You can drive on the foot 50 miles per hour with the lights on and put yourself in a safe place. Don't pull over somewhere you know that you don't think is safe. That's the first thing. The next thing is, yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Why? I want to get that officer leverage. I want to be able to lower my pride enough to give them leverage, to let them know I'm willing to do what's right so I can get on and go on by my way. I want to do what's right so I can keep my life. I want to do what's right because I don't think I did nothing wrong, or I just want to do what's right, period. Right? Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, sir. Just compliant. That's one thing that you can do. So I tell those guys that. I briefed them, hey, you just came from Dallas. You come from New York. You from New Orleans. You in Waller County right now. Understand where you are located at. Sandra Bland lost her life here. All right? So don't get it confused, but at the same time, know how to enjoy yourself. Know how to have fun. But don't be blind to what's going on. Don't look at the mirror to the side and to the left. It's a mirror, it's a window shooter in front of you. So you got to be able to look what's in front of you so you can be able to see what's going on. So that's pretty much what I tell my guys. You have to understand your surroundings. Always control the element. What you mean by that, coach? I want to be able to put myself in a situation where I know what's going on, even if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know the law. If I'm wrong, I still have the chance to understand that I have rights, even though I'm wrong. And that's what we feel at as black men. We can be wrong. We can be speeding or whatever the crime might be. It's the DA job to find out if you're guilty or not. That's just how the system is. But at the end of the day, you get a ticket, you get pulled over, understand how to conduct yourself, understand how to gain leverage, give the police officers the leverage because they, quote unquote, are the law enforcement. And now you just carry on about your day. Don't try to be a hero, quote unquote. Don't try to stick your chest out, quote unquote, because you're black. I can't erase this. Like my shirt say, I'm so black. I can't take this off. It's with me. So as long as we live, just like Theo say, as long as you live as a black individual in America, you are a threat. But you gotta know how to move as such. And it's all about doing what's right, having these conversations like we are right now. And so now people can get educated on, oh, I didn't know I can drive at a slow mile per hour, 40, under 50 miles per hour with my emergency lights on so I can get somewhere safe. Half of my players didn't know that. That's the first thing I do in my briefings. Fellas, if you're in a location where you don't feel safe, you have an opportunity to put your emergency lights on and stop in a safe location. So that's some of the things that I brief with my guys. And we have these daily conversations. If not daily, it'll be weekly conversations. Now we've been having more of the conversations because of the situation that's coming up as of lately in the marches and the protests and the COVID deal. But even during the season, I tell my guys, I tell my guys this like now, if you're not going to play with passion, I do not want you in my room. I don't want you in the team. If you're not going to play with passion and that type of commitment that you're going to bring to show that passion, I don't want you in the program. Because if you committed, change will happen. Change is not going to happen without commitment. Marriage, a relationship, a business, anything that you do in life, if you are not committed to it, won't happen. So that's one thing I tell the guys. Stay committed to what you want to see in the long run. You want to get to the NFL. You want to own a business. I'm committed to that goal. I might have to do something different. I might have to lower my pride or whatever the situation might be if I get pulled over. But I know I got to go. So those are some of the simple things that I kind of preach to my guys.
And those are all good things, man. Thank you for sharing. Theo, that was amazing. Theo, you want to jump on that as well?
As far as,
well, just in general, what you would tell some of these young men in general, like whether it be whatever situation they may find themselves in, just some advice that you might give them, just as a fellow young man.
Right, and I think Robert did a really good job of just touching on so many things that, you know, both he and I talk about all the time. And, you know, one of the things he said that's so profound is that, you know, as young Black men, as Black people, brown people in general, there really isn't a lot you can do to avoid these situations. But what you can keep in the back of your mind is what to do when you find yourself in this particular situation. And I think what, you know, Robert is highlighting is what I often tell myself, is that I often, as a Black man in America, have to police myself so I don't end up in a deadly encounter. What that means, Theo, that means if I'm walking through a you know, fancy neighborhood, a more wealthy neighborhood, and I happen to find myself walking behind a white woman or a white man, I have to bring some attention to myself so they don't turn around, see me, feel threatened, and there I go, a Black man on the concrete. And so that's something that, you know, I'm aware of, and, you know, unfortunately, as Black people, is something that I would advise other young Black people to think about, ways in which you can basically show people your innocence so that they don't do something harmful to you. And that's especially true if and when you come into contact with the system. I think what Robert is talking about is so true, that, you know, when and if you ever come into contact with the police, you want to be as deferential as possible with them. Yes, sir. No, sir. No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You know, make sure your hands and everything is visible for them to see you. Don't make any sudden movements and things of that nature, because what you want, you don't want to try to be so right in a particular situation that you end up harming yourself in the long run. Another thing I would add is that, you know, we're seeing today how politically active young people are, and I would just advise them to continue to keep that energy, continue to be active and active participant of our democracy. You know, if that means continuing to be involved on the local level with going to city council meetings, with founding other organizations within your community that's involved on particular issues. If it's a local community group that's, you know, working with issues pertaining to climate change. If you have, you know, people who are working on school issues in the community, or people, you know, involved with trying to find ways to, you know, fix our broken criminal justice system, just find small networks within your own community to continue to stay involved. And if you're of age, I would say if you ever get, you know, a notice in the mail about serving on a jury, to make sure you show up, because I think that's another part of where we sometimes fail, is we're not active participants in our democracy as far as serving on juries. And so if you are given that opportunity to show up and to be a voice for somebody on the jury who may not have that particular perspective.
Yeah, I think that's great. You know, you alluded a bit ago, Ms. Burgess, about rights that our young people have, not just when it's recording a video, but maybe in other scenarios as well. Can you perhaps expound on that? Like what our young people need to know when they're entering a situation, what they legally can do or doing?
Right. So regarding the recording, obviously, you know, you do have a right to record. You have a constitutional right to record in those open spaces. We're talking about telephone calls and things like that. Now, there's no legal advice necessarily, but I mean, it varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but generally you need that one-party consent. But one thing I do want to point out with the recording, what happened during the George Floyd protest here in Houston, even though it was peaceful, there were a lot of arrests. And what happened was during this peaceful protest, part of it is understanding that yes, you can protest, yes, you can record. However, you cannot interfere what they call public duties. in this particular, so basically if you're recording, if they're telling you to stay back, stay back. Make sure you are in a safe distance, because what you don't want is, you don't want to find yourself now engaged and then being arrested, if it can be avoided. But what happened here in Houston is that apparently there was a permit, and many of the attorneys, I have some attorney friends who were actually there, and they were just there as observers, and they didn't realize that the permit expired at a certain time. Generally, there's specificity where you can march, you know, start and stop points in terms of like the jurisdictional area. And also there was a time. And so it's my understanding that they had police officers there, and they were supposedly giving notice. But just as I'm speaking to you, they were speaking to them and giving them commands. But when you have a loud crowd of people, you know, it's kind of hard to hear if you're not giving these loud, audible commands. And so then after that, there were arrests and things like that. So in terms of the right, understanding that that is the big thing, I would say, in reference to the law. Also, I think that's pretty much, and another thing is that a lot of the jurisdictions, even in the county that I live in, there are curfews. So while you were out there in terms of the law, that is another big thing where sometimes, again, you can do everything right, but you find yourself being unaware of something as simple as a curfew. And then unfortunately, you may find yourself being thrust into the criminal justice system. That is a big thing. And I just wanted to say another thing, that if you find yourself and you are doing everything right, I think they already said comply with the officer, because there's an old saying that a lot of the attorneys use around here. You might beat the rap, but you won't beat the ride. Meaning just go ahead, take that ride, take your phone call, and yeah. So that's
some good information, really good information. Amber, I know we may have people who have a few questions. I know we don't have you know, too much longer, maybe another 10, 15 minutes or however. Are there any calls or any questions coming from your end?
Yes, there are a few questions. Mark, I have unmuted you, or if you want to unmute yourself to be able to ask your question.
It wasn't very much a question. It was just a statement. Like,
We're having a little trouble hearing you.
Yeah. You're
I think he's muted.
Mark. There you go.
Okay,
go
you guys, you know?
Uh-huh.
I wasn't very much of a question. I just wanted to add on to a statement that Mr. Shaw has said when it came to just being a Black person, just whenever you go out and what you got to do, like how you present yourself, how you carry yourself. I'm a 6'7" Black male, so like as I go out, like I just gotta carry myself different in general. Like I gotta watch what I wear and how I wear it, because one of my coaches, I'm simply just wearing blue slides, and I was wearing a blue shirt. I stay off of Crenshaw, and I could be taken as the wrong way. I just can make myself a target. So it's all about, as a Black male, how you present yourself and like what you do when you go out here. You can't even be in the wrong. It's just you being you can get 3 warning shots in your back.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Mark. Someone just asked in the chat, I believe Destiny asked about Jena, Louisiana, just what is the state of the prosecutor that was in your case? Is that prosecutor still there, or have you had any contact with anyone involved in the case? I guess that obviously would go to Robert or Theo.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've heard anything about the criminal justice system in Jena. I know, you know, maybe a year or two after, you know, 20,000 people or so came to Jena to march on our behalf, that the system continued to target Black people in Jena, and so a lot of people in the Black community went to jail for long periods of time. I'm a practicing attorney in Washington, D.C. now, so I'm not sure, and I've never practiced in Jena, Louisiana, or in Louisiana. I worked in Louisiana after law school, but I'm not sure about the prosecutor in that parish now. It's LaSalle Parish.
Do you all, how often do you go back there? I mean, I know you said you still have family there. How is it when you actually go back to a place that I'm sure in many ways it's great because it reminds you of family, but also a painful time and experience in your life?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, it's I know, you know, people say about how, you know, experiences make you who you are. And that's part of how I feel when I go back to Jena now. I owe so much of my identity, the person who I am today, is because of Jena. But there is that, you know, complicated push and pull that you speak of where, you know, I've had such a horrible experience there, but, you know, my family is there. And so for me, that's when I go to Jena, mostly around the holidays to, you know, say hello to my cousins, aunts and uncles. But otherwise, I hardly ever just go to go. I'm always going for a particular purpose for a few days, and then I'm out.
Yeah, in and out. How about you, Robert? You still with us, Robert? Robert, are you there? Maybe you can't hear us. All right, we'll go to another question if we have one, Amber, and we'll come back and see if Robert can hear us.
Okay. So I think that was all the questions I saw and knew of. And I know that what I wanted to do was just thank everybody, you know, for coming out. And we did record this, so we will have this also on our YouTube channel as well as pull the link through our Facebook. Some of our kids were unable to come because they don't get out of school till 4. So I did record it because we are going to show it to them on today when they do get out. I work a lot too with Change Happens and My Brother's Keeper, and a lot of those individuals are on. So I want to thank you all for coming on too. And I know that My Brother's Keeper specifically wanted to make an outreach for mentors. So if there's anyone that participated on today, they are definitely looking for mentors. Stephen, if you want to unmute yourself and make that clear, I know you thumbs up. Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, if you guys would like to be mentors, I really enjoyed today. And it makes so much sense with, like you said, policing yourself and making sure you conduct yourself in a certain way. We want to implement that, and we want to teach our youth how to operate and just how to be productive individuals. So if you guys would definitely go to the website, www.changehappenstx.org, and I'm going to put it inside of the comments. And you can click it's / My Brother's Keeper. And even if you go to Change Happens website, you can still click on programs and it'll take you directly to the My Brother's Keeper program. And you would, once you scroll down, you click on the mentor lead, and you fill out the application, and you can definitely be a mentor. I see one of our mentors in the room right now. Rick, he's here. So David, he's here as well. So just thank you guys for coming, and I'll put that information in the comments below.
Thank you, Benson. Thank you so much. Well, I just want to thank everybody. I think today was very informative. This is exactly what I wanted to have for our young men and our young women, to share with them just what each of you said. And, you know, Jonathan, I, you know, greatly appreciate you moderating and getting the vision out for me on what I was trying to capture here on today. And so I would definitely appreciate Robin and Theo and Coach Bailey and Change Happens family for participating in this, and Boys and Girls Club for participating in this. And so I just thank you for your knowledge, and the adversity that you all went through is not in vain, because it will help our youth to get past this level that they're climbing right now. And so we appreciate you, and thank you all for joining us on today. And so we won't hold you. And so it is 3:58 as promised. This was an hour. And so we thank you all for attending this.
Amber, before we go, can I say something?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to offer in terms of for Change Happens, My Brother's Keeper, the Boys and Girls Club, in terms of voting, the young people. So the election, as we know, election day is November 3rd. You can vote if you from 17 years old, 10 months, as long as you're going to be 18 by election day. If there are any teens, I can register people. I can get people to register. So please let us know. Amber, you have my contact information. I think that is so important that our young people register to vote and they are engaged in the process.
Yes, ma'am. I sure do, Robin. And if you want to put that in the chat so that they can see that information, and we do want you all to please register to vote. It is very critical. And so if you guys would do that, and then we'll I'll capture all those links and I'll put it on with this for the YouTube channel, the video. So we'll keep all those on there so people can refer back to that and have a point of reference.
Okay.
And Robin, looking forward to
Yes.
collaborating with you, because I know the AK is going to be on the trail.
Oh yes, absolutely. yes. Good to see you.
Appreciate it, Theo. Appreciate it, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
As always good to connect with you and Robert. And then hopefully I'll get in contact with the other guys, and then we'll see where we can go from there. But you know, the work is continuing. Thank you, Jonathan, too.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. It was an honor to be here with all y'all. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Thank y'all. Y'all have a wonderful afternoon.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.